Welcome back, Captain. What is in store for us this time?
This one is a small convoy again, XO. We won't have any assistance from additional escorts either. We must take every opportunity to get the crew trained for battle. Each man should be an expert at more than one watch station.
So what does the activity report say?
It says that there's not too much going on. Agents in Europe watching the U-boat bases report only 6 sailings in the last 2 weeks.
Can we count on the Catalinas to watch over us?
Looks like not much, if any, air support for us on this trip, XO. The weather report looks dismal. We can expect winds, high seas, rain squalls, and low visibility all the way across. The hurricane that's near Florida is expected to move up the east coast and turn toward Britain this week.
The crew will suffer, and fatigue will set in early. With constant overcast, the navigators will have a hard time getting their star fixes. Nevertheless, the war material must get through. Captain, it is my duty to remind you that we need to complete all of our repairs before leaving port. The chief engineer says everything will be ready by daybreak, and I will make sure we set sail without delay.
And so we are underway. I have become more confident in the crew's abilities, but so many other uncertainties remain. Do the Germans have any new tactics or technologies? Is the intelligence we are provided accurate? What will the weather really be? Will we have air cover? If so, where? We will do our best to protect our convoy. Our part is to bring this miserable war to a swift end. We will be forming the convoy with the other escorts at Argentia. The waters around the port are treacherous, especially near Chambers Cove. We had a few serious incidents there last year. Our orders call for a small convoy again. I have to wonder why HQ is assigning us to such small ones. We either haven't earned their trust yet, or on the contrary, the material is unusually highly valuable, and they hope a smaller convoy will sneak through? Ultimately, it doesn't matter. We have our orders, and our job is to get the convoy across. This time of year, there are hurricanes in the tropics. These can sweep up the east coast and move into the North Atlantic. The waves and winds can be fierce. Our radio room will keep us advised if anything nasty is headed our way, with at least a few days' warning. Our Army Air Corps buddies won't be coming to our aid this time. The sailing orders indicate that there should be few U-boats out there. It would be nice to make it across without trouble, for once.
All ships, ice has been spotted. Maintain ice lookouts. Break formation is authorized.
Surface radar has a new contact. Bearing 053. Range 4,600 yards.
Bridge combat. New surface contact from radar. Bearing 053. Range 4,600 yards. I designate contact able. Time 13:13.
Contact able now bears 051. Range 4,300 yards.
Lookouts. Anything at 051.
I see nothing! Bearing 051.
Contact able now bears 0.
Radio, Captain. Send a report to Convoy Commodore. Jansen has unknown contact on radar. Front of the convoy.
Contact able, coming in much more strongly. I evaluate as a definite contact.
Captain I. Officer of the deck, set general quarters.
Set general quarters. Aye. General quarters. General quarters. All hands man your battle stations. Set condition zebra throughout the ship.
Stern depth charge detail manned and ready. Main battery ports manned and ready. Engineering officer watch reports engineering manned and ready. Zebra set. 4 boilers online. Max speed 32 knots. Electric plant split. All fire pumps online.
Very well.
Contact Able now bears 0, forward, range 3,400 yards. Now
Hello
bears
everyone,
0,
welcome back to
forward,
mission
range
number 3, our first battle.
3,300
We got a
yards.
small convoy,
All
and
engines
now we
ahead
have
standard.
some ice to
All
contend
engines ahead
with.
standard. Aye, sir.
So
New
last
course.
time I talked
0,
about the
4,
overall
2.
design
0,
history of the
4,
Fletcher
2.
class
Aye, sir.
destroyers, and I kind of left off when they began construction. So I'm going to continue on with my
Contact
historical
Able
discussion
now
on that.
bears 0,
During the
3,
construction of the
niner,
destroyers, several
range
modifications were
3,000
made to the
yards.
armament and defensive systems of the ships. The original 1.1-inch quadruple mount was replaced with a twin Bofors gun, with only the first few ships having 1.1-inch guns when they were completed.
Mountie reporting.
The 450 caliber machine guns were replaced with 20mm single mounts.
Contact
Following the trials in
Able
early
now
1941, the
bears
after
0,
5-inch
3,
guns were ordered to be
5,
enclosed.
range 2,500
In late 1941, the
yards.
CNO,
This
that
is
is the Chief of
Bloodhound.
Naval
Take new
Operations,
station in Convoy
proposed a
Street.
revised anti-aircraft battery.
Taking station.
This also
0,
included
2,
adding 2
0,
more depth
course,
charge
0,
throwers for a
2,
total of
0. Aye,
6,
sir.
as well as 2 twin 40mm guns and 2, rather than 4, 20mm guns.
Contact
This would
Able
require the removal
now
of the after
bears
set of torpedo
0,
tubes as
3,
weight compensation.
0, range 2,000
By late January
yards.
1942, it was believed that both banks of torpedo tubes could be kept if only 1 twin 40mm were mounted and 6, rather than 4, 20mm guns were mounted. The CNO preferred this option because it did not sacrifice torpedo armament.
Contact
On later
Able
ships of the
now
class,
bears
changes to the
0,
superstructure
2,
included
6,
lowering the
range
director by 6 feet
1,600
and reducing
yards.
protection to 1/4 of an inch, which allowed for mounting a second twin 40mm gun and 4 20mm guns. In April 1942, the General Board decided to eliminate the protection over the ship and fire controls and retain the guns and torpedoes,
Able now
considering the
bears
destroyers
0,
designed for
1,
operation with heavier
8,
units rather than as a general purpose ship
1,100
or solely
yards.
for anti-submarine warfare. They acknowledged that these modifications were expedient since no acceptable solution was possible on this
Surface
particular
radar has
amount
a
of
new
tonnage.
contact.
They wanted a responsive ship
0,
within the draft limits,
range
with good speed, well trimmed, and with
3,500
excellent damage
yards.
control.
Lost contact.
It also
Able,
had to be
last
within
bearing,
stability and
0,
weight standards
1,
without ballast,
8,
if possible.
Last range 1,000 yards.
Bridge
The board's
combat.
April
New surface
proposals,
contact
approved
from
by
radar.
Secretary of the
Bearing
Navy in June,
0,
eliminated the
0,
torpedo
8,
reloads,
range
excess depth charges,
3,500
leaving
yards.
enough for just
I
5
designate
patterns,
contact Baker.
6 feet
Time,
of the
13,
5-inch
17.
gun director tube, and 1 level of the after deck house. The 2.5-meter rangefinder, one 1.1-inch cannon director, and as much as 3/4 of an inch plate from the pilot house and director
Handler,
as
this is
possible
Bloodhound.
were
Engage
also
contact.
removed.
Baker.
Roger.
In their
Handler
place
engaging
was
contact.
a 1/4 of an inch
Bringing
plate
up
and a
charges.
1/2-inch plate
Shallow
to the
powder.
director itself. A twin 40mm mount was added to the fantail and another between the number 3 and number 4
Steady as she
batteries in
goes.
place of the 1.1-inch
Steady
cannon.
on course. 3,
The warhead
5,
locker
2.
became an automatic weapon ammo
Sonar.
locker, and
This
depth
is the
charges
captain.
were limited to 5
Investigate
300-pound
mark.
charges per
3,
thrower,
3,
2
2,
8-charge
0,
tracks with
6,
600-pound charges
Investigating
aft,
arc. 3,
and a pair of
3,
5-charge
3,
stowage
0,
between them.
6, 3.
This is what was
Aye, sir.
carried on deck and would provide for the required 5 patterns.
Fire 1.
And see if we can get contact able here.
Fire 2. Fire 3.
I think I lost track of it, so I'm just kind of generally just throwing the charges out there. Yep, we missed him. At the very least, maybe I'll give him a moment of pause. Keep him down there, because Baker and Abel are so close together right there.
New course. 220.
Course 2, 2, 0. Aye,
Alright,
sir.
Antler, get your butt up here, please. Anyway,
Sonar.
all of these changes
This is the
effectively
captain.
created 2
Report
different
active search.
Fletcher destroyers.
183,
Those already or
2,
nearly completed
7,
retain the
3.
high
Lost
bridge
contact.
silhouette and the high director,
Last bearing,
as per the
0,
pre-war design
0,
practices.
2.
Their
Last
batteries
range,
nearly matched the later
1,200
ships.
yards.
Late
Active
production
search.
ships
1,
received the
8,
squared-off bridges
3,
with the open areas for
2,
better anti-aircraft
7,
visibility.
3. Aye, sir.
These were destroyers 518 to 22, 526 to 41, 544 to 47, 554 to 68, 581 to 91, 594 to 97, 629 to 44, and all under the Maximum
Bloodhound,
Effort
this is
Fiscal
Handler.
Year
Handler
1942
regaining
program.
contact. Baker.
which were destroyers 649 to 91 and 792 to 804.
Rudder 20 degrees.
Bridge, ice lookout, iceberg, port bow.
Yes, I see the iceberg. So obviously the destroyer that we're on right now, the fictional Jansen, is one of the early war Fletchers, because it does not, it still has the high bridge. You know, it does not have the squared off bridge.
3212051. Investigating arc 3.
As time went on, the anti-aircraft battery increased on these ships. The closed bridge Fletchers would mount up to 8 20mm guns. One would be on the platform before the bridge, 2 on either side of the deckhouse, and 4 on the waist, augmenting the original 2. In early 1943, the 3 20mm guns were replaced the 40mm Bofors gun on the fantail, and 2 more twin Bofors mounts were placed abeam the aft funnel, for a total of 3 twin Bofors mounts. The open bridge Fletchers received a total of 10 20mm guns. None were placed atop the open bridge structure, and the closed bridge Fletchers had 11 20mm guns.
1320.
Lost contact. Charlie, last bearing. 1-3.
While the fantail twin Bofors were briefly considered being restored, the ultimate anti-aircraft battery for these ships of 5 twin Bofors and 7 20mm guns was decided in June of 1943. The 4th and 5th Bofors replaced the 20mm guns in front of the bridge. The ships were fitted with a CIC, and many were also completed with the 5-mount standard, which remained throughout 1945. However, these anti-aircraft guns increased the weight of the ships. The 5 twin Bofors mounts weighed 29 tons without their ammo, and the 7 20mm guns weighed 5.5 tons without their splinter shields. In contrast, the originally mounted quad 1.1-inch cannons weighed 4.7 tons. In total, the anti-aircraft battery was greater than the 18 to 19 tons of a single enclosed 5-inch gun mount. But it wasn't over yet. The anti-kamikaze program in April 1945 introduced some significant changes. The forward torpedo tubes and 2 twin waist-mounted Bofors guns were replaced with 2 quad Bofors and a Mark 63 blind fire director. 6 twin 20mm mounts replaced the 7 single mounts. These changes were applied to later ships, and only 53 Fletchers were modified to this standard by November of 1945.
Contact. Charlie now bears 1. Forward 2. Range 6,000.
So we got a bunch of guys here. I'm just going to take some shots at Charlie right here. Run, Charlie. Maybe I can just make him submerge. As an overall evaluation, the Fletcher-class destroyers are considered to be the most successful of all U.S. destroyers. Fast and sturdy enough to take significant punishment, they fought in most naval battles of the Pacific War, from the naval battles of Guadalcanal in November of 1942 onwards. The destroyers Hoel, Heermann, and Johnston, along with 4 destroyer escorts, charged the Japanese battle line during the Battle off Samar on 25 October 1944, while just to the south, other Fletchers were making the last destroyer surface torpedo attacks against the Japanese forces coming up the Surigao Strait. The Fletcher-class design was so successful that the first major post-war class of destroyers, the Ford Sherman class, originally began as a project to upgrade the Fletchers themselves. As a design, the Fletcher class was the first class of destroyers which were free of treaty restrictions. The earlier Sims and Benson classes were technically unlimited by the treaty, but the high production tempo required that existing treaty designs were used rather than starting from scratch. This was true of other ship classes in the U.S. Navy at the time as well. Thus, free of treaty restrictions, the Fletcher class was a new generation of warship design similar to the Midway-class carriers, the unbuilt Montana-class battleships, and the Alaska-class large cruisers. Of the 175 Fletcher destroyers built, the vast majority served exclusively in the Pacific, and thus are pretty fondly remembered by their crews in that theater. The Fletcher destroyers built on the East Coast naturally went on their sea trials in the Atlantic under Destroyers Atlantic Command, but afterwards were transferred to the Pacific. The only Fletcher destroyer, at least according to Norman Friedman, to serve in the Atlantic was USS Caps, Destroyer 550, which was briefly attached to Desdiv 20. Along with the British Home Fleet, USS Ranger, and USS Tuscaloosa, They raided the Norwegian coast in November of
Surface
1943.
radar has a new contact. Bearing
More Fletchers were built than any
116.
other,
Range
but as they were already in production, it was simply
6,400
easier to
yards.
put them into mass
Combat sonar.
production.
Contact.
This coincided with the ramp
Now
up in
bears
production prior to and early
2,
in World War
8.
II.
Range
The lead ship,
1,100
USS Fletcher, was
yards.
commissioned on 30
Bearing
June
steady.
1942.
Range combat. New surface
10 more of the
contact
class were already
radar.
in service by late
Bearing
August, and 19 more were in
116.
commission by the
Range
end of 1942.
6,400 yards.
By this time, the following Alan M. Sumner class
Time,
design
13.
was already revised and being
Port
ordered.
lookout. Warship. CBDR. Bearing. 1-6.
Well, let's
7.
not hit
Range
anything.
closing quickly. I say again. CBDR.
Combat sonar. Contact.
No, let's not
Able.
hit him,
Now bears
okay?
208.
The large size of the
Range
Fletchers meant they could
800
accommodate
yards.
larger numbers of
Estimated
light
depth
anti-aircraft
shallow.
guns without
Lost
affecting the
contact.
ship's
Dog.
performance or
Last
sacrificing
bearing.
main
1,
battery armament.
1, 5.
Not only did they
Last
retain their main
range,
battery, but also both
5,800
torpedo tube
yards.
mounts.
Bloodhound.
This is somewhat ironic, given that the succeeding Sumner-class destroyers were known to be overloaded rather forward. Still, the Fletchers, like other flush deck destroyers with low freeboard, were known to be pretty wet in heavy seas compared to older designs with higher forecastles.
yards. Contact
Still, given the environment of the Pacific, this low freeboard wasn't as much of a problem, and most destroyer officers seemed to prefer the Fletchers since they were generally considered roomier than earlier ships.
5,900 yards. Bloodhound. This is
During
mounting.
trials,
Mounting
USS
lost
Nicholas
contact.
achieved a
Charlie.
speed
Last
of
known at
37.1
bearing
knots
1,
at
5.
2,589
Range,
tons,
5,100 yards.
and USS Stembo
Combat sonar.
made 35.1
Contact.
knots at
Now bears
2,800 tons.
7, 6.
The ships were expected to make 36.1
200
knots at
Estimated
2,700
depth, medium.
tons. So
Range
the
of
original
shortest,
design speed of 38
medium
knots was more like
Range.
35 knots in
Iceberg.
practice,
Port bow.
although that was the required speed of earlier
Combat sonar.
destroyers.
Contact.
The
Able.
later Mitchell
Now
class
bears
destroyers would be
1,
augmented
6.
to achieve
Range,
higher speeds.
100 yards. Contact increasing. Fire 1. Lost
Wow,
contact.
that
Dog.
U-boat is apparently
Last bearing.
stuck
1,
in an iceberg.
1. Fire
Maybe we should
2.
just attack
Last
the iceberg,
range,
huh?
5,400 yards. Fire 3.
Ice lookout.
Although
Iceberg.
the design
Port
of the
bow.
Fletchers was successful, they did not quite meet the design
Combat
requirements.
sonar.
The extra weight
Contact.
added during
Able.
World War II
Now
hampered
bears
them, since the
0,
added
3,
weapons and a full load of
1.
ammo increased their
Range,
trial displacement
200 yards.
from
Strong
2,550
noise.
tons to
Sonar.
2,700
Combat sonar.
tons.
Lost contact.
An aluminum
Able.
shortage
Last
meant that the
bearing,
deck houses
0,
were constructed
3,
of steel,
1.
which also
Last
increased the
range,
weight.
200 yards.
For example,
Combat
USS
sonar.
Black,
Investigating
that is
surface radar
destroyer
has regained
666,
contact.
is
Charlie,
estimated to have
bearing
gained about
1,
54 tons in
4,
miscellaneous
3.
fittings and
Range,
furniture in the
5,100
deck house structures.
yards. Bridge, starboard lookout.
The single
British
rudder
ship
and long
CBDR.
length of the ships
Bearing
also meant
2,
that
2,
they had a
3.
larger
Range
tactical
closing
diameter,
quickly.
that
I
is a
say
turning
again,
radius,
CBDR.
than an Iowa-class
Hard
battleship.
right rudder. Hard
This was
right
only
rudder.
remedied
Combat
with the
sonar.
succeeding
Regain
twin-rudder
contact.
Sumner-class
Able.
design.
Bearing 0, 2, 4.
Let's dodge this
Range,
merchant ship right
700
here.
yards. Lost contact.
Still,
Charlie,
the Fletchers that
last
were
bearing,
reactivated
1,
during the Korean War had larger
2,
rudders fitted to
last
help them
range,
alleviate this particular issue.
4,600 yards.
Bridge. Port lookout. Merchant ship. CBDR. Bearing. 1-6.
Alright, so
3.
that's really all I have to
Quickly.
say for
I
the
say
overall
again,
kind of history of the
CBDR.
design of the
Combat sonar.
Fletchers. I might
Contact.
have more
Able.
commentary in
Now
later
bears
videos on
0,
overall destroyer
4,
warfare in World War
5.
II,
Range,
but that will
900
be
yards.
specifically
Contact
related to
decreasing
the
depth.
Fletchers
Surface
themselves.
radar has regained contact. Charlie, bearing
In the meantime,
1,
let's see if we can do
forward,
something about these
3,
U-boats, huh?
range, 5,300 yards.
Bridge. Ice lookout. Iceberg. Starboard bow.
You don't say.
Combat sonar. Contact.
Iceberg,
Able.
right ahead,
now
huh?
bears 0, 6, 8.
I believe you may get your headlines, Mr.
800
Ismay.
yards. Bearings drifting right.
Bridge. Ice
Bloodhound,
lookout.
this is Antler. Antler
Starboard
lost
bow.
contact. Baker, last known at bearing 0, 7.
Well,
1.
Antler,
Range,
Baker should be right behind
1,700
you.
yards
You just
from
turn
Bloodhound.
that
Bloodhound,
hydrophone
this is
around,
Antler. Antler regained contact. Baker,
make a turn,
bearing
and
0,
you might be able to
7,
start
3.
hearing it again.
Range 1,600 yards from Bloodhound. Bloodhound,
Actually, from my
this is
understanding,
Antler.
that was an
Antler
issue with
lost
depth
contact.
charges, is
Baker,
that they
last
create a
known
huge
at
boom,
bearing 0,
you know,
7,
regardless of
4.
whether or not they
Range
actually hit anything or do
1,600
any
yards
damage to
from
your
Bloodhound.
target. and that blinds, you know, figuratively, the sonar operator, so all I can hear is just this huge explosion for a while, until things calm down and you can actually start hearing things again.
Iceberg, starboard bow.
So that was a problem.
This is Antler.
Also, one of the nicer things about the forward-throwing, like, hedgehogs and so on, is that they're only going to detonate if they actually hit something, otherwise they just sink to the bottom. So they don't create this big explosion and concussion in the water that, you know, deafens the sonar man.
7, range 4,600 yards. Lost contact, dog, last bearing 130. Last range 4,100 yards.
Bridge, starboard lookout. Object 1/3 to the horizon. Bearing 181. Appears to be periscope feather.
Combat sonar, contact, able, now bears 195. Range 200 yards. Estimated depth, shallow.
Bridge, starboard lookout. Warship,
Alright, let's
CBDR.
turn, let's
Bearing
get around this iceberg, dodge this merchant ship, and that
I
warship.
say again, CBDR.
Surface radar has regained contact. Dog, bearing 133. Range 4,200 yards.
Yeah, the fog and the ice are not helping this mission. It's really difficult to keep track of where everything is.
Range closing quickly. I say again, CBDR.
Combat sonar, contact, able, now bears 262. Range 300 yards. Wake on left cut.
Bridge, port lookout. Merchant ship, CBDR. Bearing 114.
Yes, we're
Range
not
closing
gonna
quickly.
hit it.
I
We're gonna be
say
okay.
again, CBDR.
Bloodhound, this is Mountie. Mountie lost contact. Charlie, last known at bearing 164.
stop. Stop the boot.
4,500 yards from Bloodhound.
Bridge, starboard lookout.
Mountie,
Object 1/3
do
to the
something about
horizon. Bearing
dog there.
295.
It's getting close to the
Appears
convoy.
to be periscope feather.
Bloodhound, this is Mountie. Mountie regained. Contact Charlie. Bearing 16.
Is that a periscope right there?
4,400 yards
Next to that
from
iceberg.
Bloodhound.
Bridge, port lookout. Object 1/2 to the horizon.
Get us moving again.
Bearing
I
0,
don't want to take a
2,
torpedo.
2. Appears to be periscope feather.
Bloodhound,
Reportedly, the
this is
U-boats
Mountie.
now shoot
Mountie
torpedoes
lost
at you
contact.
if they have the
Charlie,
opportunity.
last known at bearing
Let's not give 'em a good shot.
163.
A sitting
Range
target, shall we?
4,400 yards from Bloodhound. Fire combat sonar. Contact. Able.
Yeah, he's
Now
right next to
bears
that
30.
iceberg. Whatever, I'll just start
Range
throwing
300
depth
yards.
charges.
Wake on left cut.
Bridge, ice
Bridge,
lookout.
starboard lookout.
Iceberg,
Object
starboard
1/3 to the
bow.
horizon. Bearing 325. Appears to
Fire
be
2.
periscope feather.
Ready depth charges. Shallow pattern. Combat sonar. Contact. Able. Now bears 345. Fire 3. 400 yards. Lost contact. Dog. Last bearing 145. Last range 2,900 yards. Combat sonar. Contact. Able. Now bears 355. Range 400 yards. Bearings drifting right.
Bridge, starboard lookout. Object 1/3 to the horizon. Bearing.
Alright, he's
0,
going deeper.
6. Appears to
Just
be
beyond that
periscope
iceberg.
feather.
Bloodhound, this is Antler. Antler lost contact. Baker, last known at bearing 054. Range 700 yards from Bloodhound.
Bridge, starboard lookout. Warship, CBDR. Bearing 050. Range closing quickly. I say again, CBDR.
Bloodhound, this is Antler. Antler regained contact. Baker, bearing 075. Range 600 yards from Bloodhound.
Surface radar has regained contact. Dog. Bearing 151. Range
Come right.
3,500 yards.
Bridge,
Lost
ice lookout.
contact.
Iceberg,
Dog.
port
Last
bow.
bearing 151. Last range 3,200 yards. Combat sonar. Contact. Able. Now bears 117.
Yeah, it's a bloody
Range
mess here.
500 yards. Contact.
Barely makes
decreasing
sense of
depth.
this confusion.
Bloodhound, this is Antler. Antler made a depth charge attack on contact. Baker, unknown results.
Bridge, starboard
Yeah, we
lookout.
almost ran into
Object
you,
1/2
Antler,
to the
there.
horizon. Bearing 147. Appears to be periscope feather.
Combat sonar. Contact. Able. Now bears 1-4.
The enemy is retreating. All escorts, return to formation and resume sonar responsibility.
Okay, and mission is over. Well, let's see how we did. Looks like a defeat screen, not a victory screen. Yet, it is a minor victory. Well, we didn't lose anyone, but we also didn't sink anything. I'd say that's still a win.
The Germans didn't stand a chance. This encounter is a win for the Allies. Most importantly, all our precious cargo made it through. We must do a better job of sinking U-boats. I will talk to the other commanders about how we can improve our offensive strategy. The sea ice made the battle so much more difficult, but we managed to navigate through it. I don't want to jinx it, but luck is really on our side. I worry that the weather coupled with technical issues may cause the merchants to scatter. If the formation falls apart, defending it will be pure chaos. We're lucky if we don't lose the ships in a collision.